Okay, guys, am I audible for everyone? Today we'll discuss the topic about the exception handling. Okay, exception handling. In the exception handling, what are the going forward? What are the topics we'll cover? Like the first one is the what is exception. Okay, what is exception? Second one is why we need to handle the exception. Why we need to handle the exception. Okay, and the third one is exception hierarchy. Exception hierarchy. Okay, exception hierarchy. Next question is next question. Next topic is, I would say, difference between exception and error. Difference between exception and error. Exception and error. Okay. Next point is we will discuss about the checked exceptions. Checked exception and unchecked exception. Checked exception and then unchecked exception. Unchecked exception. Okay. Next thing is we can handle the exceptions. We will use keywords. Okay. We can handle the exceptions. We can handle the exceptions. We can handle the exceptions by using below keywords. By using below keywords. Below keywords. The keywords are like first one is the try block, try keyword. Second one is the catch keyword. Third one is the finally keyword. Okay. Fourth one is the throws keyword, and fifth one is the throw keyword. Okay. And then where we will create the custom exception as well. We will create custom exception as well. Custom exception as well. So in some project we will create a custom project as well. This is also called user defined exception. User defined exception. These are the topics we will cover in the exception handling. Okay, fine. So before going to start the exception handling, we need to know two words. One is the graceful termination, and the second one is abnormal termination. Graceful termination, and then second one is the abnormal termination. Okay, I will show you what does it mean by graceful termination and what does it mean by abnormal termination. For example, I am going to IDE. Here I am taking one file. The file name is the test, and here we have the main method, and under the main method I am taking some statements, sysout statement, and here I will mention the statement is program started, program start, and then few more statements I will take this in the same file. Okay, here I would like to mention program executing. Okay, next here I will mention program end. Here I will mention program end. Okay, if I save the file, if I execute the file, then you'll see you will get the result as program started and program executing and then end. Okay, then when the controller terminated after the program execution, then the termination is called graceful termination. Are you guys clear with my point? So in this case, the termination after the program execution, termination after the program execution, termination after program execution, after program execution, termination after program execution is called graceful termination. Is called graceful termination. Are you guys clear with my point? Is called graceful termination, and this is also called as successful termination. Okay, somebody is trying to joining. Okay, this is also called as successful termination. Successful termination. Okay, successful. I would say successful termination. Are you guys clear with my point? So what does it mean by abnormal termination? So I will show you the termination middle of the program. Termination middle of the program. middle of the program is called abnormal termination. Is called abnormal termination. Okay, I will show you what does it mean by abnormal termination. Then you know you will get the some clarity. Abnormal termination. Okay, this is the program, right? This is the program, right? So here what I am doing is, instead of this statement I am mentioning some number divided by 0, okay, and then I'm saving this one, and total I have here three statements, right? So my requirement is all three statements should be executed. My requirement is all three statements I want to uh, I want to execute all three statements. But in this case, if you observe here, if I click on it, so you are getting only first statement got executed and remaining two statements is not executed. Why? Because so any number in mathematics, any number we cannot divide it by 0. In mathematics, any number we cannot divide it by 0. We cannot divide it by 0. Okay. So due to that issue, so the compiler is skipping after statements also. So if I take the multiple statements here, if I take the multiple statements here, if I take the multiple statements, so due to this reason, my compiler is not executing remaining statements. My controller got terminated abnormally. My controller got terminated abnormally. So that is called abnormal termination. Are you guys clear with my point? Graceful termination meaning the termination after program execution is called graceful termination. Abnormal termination meaning termination middle of the program is called abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. Okay. This is clear, guys. These two lines is clear. Graceful termination and observe abnormal termination. This is clear. Okay, next one is exception. Exception. What does it mean by exception? Exception means an unwanted situation. An unwanted situation. An unwanted situation comes in the program execution. An unwanted situation comes in the program execution. Program execution. Program execution is called exception. Okay, is called exception, right? So next point is an unwanted situation comes in the program execution is called exception. Okay, so exception will disturb normal flow of the program. Okay, exception will disturb normal flow of the program. Exception will disturb normal flow of the program. Exception will disturb normal flow of the program. Normal normal execution flow of the program. I would say normal execution flow of the program. Okay, third point is when exception occurred. Third point is when exception occurred, terminated, so the program got terminated abnormally. So our Java programs got terminated abnormally. Programs got terminated terminated abnormally. Terminated abnormally. Okay. Okay, as a programmer, the note point, this is the note point. As a programmer, as a programmer, graceful termination is, as a programmer, programs, graceful termination is our responsibility. As a programmer, programs, as a programmer, programs graceful termination is our responsibility. Programs graceful termination is our responsibility. Is our responsibility. Okay. The main purpose. The main purpose of the exception is, I would say, the main purpose of the exception is hmm, to achieve graceful termination. The main purpose of the exception is to achieve to achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. Are you guys clear with the point? What does it mean by exception meaning? An unwanted situation comes into the program execution is called exception, and exception will disturb normal flow of program. When exception occurs, program got terminated abnormally. Okay, as a programmer, program's graceful termination is our responsibility. The main purpose of exception is to achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. Okay, okay. Next thing is exception hierarchy. Exception hierarchy. Okay, in the exception hierarchy, generally, first we have the throwable. Okay, throwable class. And inside the throwable we have the, I would say, exception and then error. Exception and then we have the error. Second one is we have the error, exception, and then we have the error. Okay, that in the interview perspective they will ask the regular question is what is the difference between exception and error. What is the difference between exception exception and error? This is the very regular question. So the exception we can handle by using keywords, but error we cannot handle. The error we cannot handle, but exception is the predefined class. Error is also predefined class. Okay, exception we can handle by using the keywords, but error we cannot handle. So the examples for the error are some like the space. Sometimes we will get the like storage issue. So at the time we cannot handle. We need to increase the size like that. Okay, but programmatically we cannot handle anything. But in case of exception, we can handle programmatically by using the keywords. We can handle the programmatically by using the keywords. Okay, I will show you like exception hierarchy. In case I will show you exception hierarchy. If I look for the exception hierarchy, see here, object class and then throwable. Under the throwable we have the exception and then error. So in the exceptions, again it is categorized into two types. One is the checked exception, second one is the unchecked exception. Then if you see here, under the error we have the virtual machine error and assertion error. These we cannot handle. These we cannot handle, but this we can handle by using keywords. By using keywords. Okay. Now here the point is, so again exception is divided into two types. Again exception is divided into two types. Exception is divided into two types. Okay, first one is the checked exception. And the second one is the unchecked exception. First one is the checked exception and the second one is the unchecked exception. Then what is the difference between the checked exception, unchecked exception? Basically, first one is the checked exception, second one is the unchecked exception. Okay, checked exception meaning compiler known exceptions. Compiler known exceptions. Compiler also known some exceptions. Compiler known exceptions is called checked exceptions. For example, so compiler, when you are writing the program on the IDEs, meanwhile compiler is also compiling. If it is any mistakes, so for example, if I miss the semicolon here, then it is the throwing the error. So who is the parallelly we have the compiler. So compiler also checking the syntax mistakes. If we made any mistakes, it will automatically it will update you. Okay. Now what I'm checked exception meaning compiler known exceptions. For example, here I am taking some file reader. Okay, for example, here I will take some file reader. If I want to read the file, then for that purpose we have the one predefined class, that is the file reader. Okay, now this file reader java.io package, and then here I am storing this one in some reference variable, that is file reader, and then this data type is I would like to mention file reader. Okay, here I am passing some abc.txt. Okay, it is throwing the error. Why it is throwing the error? Basically, this file which is not available in my system also. When I am trying to when I am trying to give this path, meanwhile it is throwing the error. So compiler also meanwhile it is taking, and it is telling to us, hey boss, there is no file in our system. There is no file in your system with specific with abc.txt with that specific name. Okay. Checked exception is called compiler known exceptions is called checked exceptions, and where we can mention the examples for the best examples for the checked exceptions. Checked exceptions are file reader, file not found exception, file not found exception, comma IO exception. These are the examples for the checked exceptions. Next one is unchecked exceptions. Compiler unknown exceptions. Compiler unknown exceptions is called unchecked exceptions. Sometimes, so for example, if you see here, now what I'm doing, I'm taking two statements, system statement, and here I am passing. So in mathematics, we cannot divide it any number by zero. Okay, we cannot divide it any number by zero. That is the mistake, right? But that mistake we know, that exception we know, but the compiler don't know the thing. Okay, compiler don't know the thing, so the compiler is not throwing error, meaning compiler also don't know. Such kind of exceptions is called unchecked exceptions. We cannot divide it any number by zero, any number by zero. This mistake compiler also don't know. Okay, this exception compiler also don't know. Such kind of exceptions is called unchecked exceptions. Okay, the best example for the unchecked exceptions are, I would say, arithmetic exceptions, arithmetic exception, and second one is the null pointer exception. Null pointer exception. Null pointer exception meaning, for example, I'm storing some the value string, the name, I would say name equal to, I'm mentioning some null value. Okay, and then if you observe here, what I'm doing, I'm performing some operation on the null value, name dot length. Okay, lame north length. And then if I run this one, if I execute this one, now you guys see the observe what it is throwing the error exception in thread. That is null pointer exception. Why it is throwing the null pointer exception? Ah, we are performing operations on null. We are performing operations on null. So how will you perform? Is there any value can able to perform? So nobody cannot perform any operations on the null value, right? So that is also like I would say nobody cannot perform any operations on the null. Null. Okay. This mistake we know, but compiler don't know. So such kind of that is also one example we can say null pointer exception. Null pointer exception. Are you guys clear with my point? Okay, fine. So these are the exceptions like arithmetic exception, file not found exception, and then I would say file not found exception, and then how to overcome these all above exceptions. We can handle above exceptions. We can handle we can handle above exceptions by using below keywords. We can handle above exceptions. We can handle above exceptions by using below keywords. Below keywords. The keywords are like a try and then the catch and then finally and then throws and then throw. Okay. Then okay. We'll go with the first one try and catch. So for example, try is the keyword where the exception is coming, that is the risky code. So inside the try block you can keep the risky code. We can keep risky code. You can keep risky code. Okay, second point is catch. So keeping the risky code meaning some their internal process meaning where we create the object and the object is thrown. So that object it will be catched by the catch block. So the main purpose of the catch block is to catch the exception. To catch the exception. To catch the exception. Okay. To catch the exception. Okay. Next thing here is to catch the exception. Next finally block is to execute the statements all the times whatever the statements available inside the final block, those will be execute all the times. So first we'll complete these three, then we'll go to the next first one is try block, and then so I will go here the IDE, and then for example here I'm taking the same statements. Okay, here I'm taking the same statements. The first statement is out start. Okay, next one is I am taking here I am taking 10 divided by 0. Okay, next here I would like to take the program enter. Okay, if I save this one, if I run this one, you are getting the exception, right? So the program, the terminal got terminated abnormal. Program got terminated abnormal. So as a programmer, graceful termination is our responsibility. Our responsibility, right? So now what I am doing, so simply like this is the risky code. The exception is coming in this line. So the risky code you can keep inside the try block. You can take the try block, and then inside the try block you can keep the exception, and then where we can take the catch block. So inside the catch block what will happen generally, so what kind of exception is this one? Arithmetic exception, right? So we can mention arithmetic exception, arithmetic exception, and then And then here you can mention some dummy message, sysout statement. So here I will say a tub of yellow we cannot divide it by 0. We cannot divide it by 0. Okay. So I'm saving this one, and then if I run this one, you will get the output. But what will happen internally when I'm keeping the risky code inside the try block? What will happen internally? I'll show you. Then you know we'll get the clarity on it. If not, you will confuse in case of this one. I will take the MS Paint. So see here, generally what will happen internal process is, mhm, okay, wherever the exception is coming. For example, in our case, the exception is coming like we are mentioning the SOP statement, and then where I would say SOP statement, here we will mention like 10 divided by 0, right? But this is the arithmetic exception. This is the arithmetic exception. Whenever you are keeping the risky code inside the try block, what will happen in generally, I will show you. Try block meaning the risky code we will keep inside the try block. Then what will happen internally is SOP. If I whenever you mention the risky code inside, internally what will happen? The object got created. Okay, how will you create the object? Normally you can create the object by using the new keyword. Okay, here also object will be created based on the exception. Here the exception is belong to arithmetic exception, right? So here the object got created. So new arithmetic exception, arithmetic exception, and then this arithmetic exception will be thrown by any some reference variable. This reference variable data type is the arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception, okay, and then this is the reference variable, right? This the exception will be thrown, will be catch here, and then this exception we are throwing by using throw, and we are throwing this one. Okay, we are throwing this one, somebody will catch, right? Who will catch? So that's why we'll be having the catch keyword, and then this this will be caught by the catch block, meaning we can mention arithmetic exception, arithmetic exception, and then the reference variable is this e. The exception is called by e, and here we will pass some dummy message. Here we will pass some dummy message instead of this exception will caught by the reference variable. Here we will pass some dummy message. The dummy message is we cannot divide it by 0. 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 So instead of this exception, we will pass some dummy message. This dummy message we will pass. So through this, we can get the graceful termination. We can pass some dummy message. Through this we can get the graceful termination. Are you guys clear with my point? So this is the process which will happen internally whenever you are making the keeping the risky code inside the try block. So based on the exception, object got created internally and that object will be thrown. The object will be thrown. So and then the object will be catched by the catch block, and then instead of that exception we will pass some dummy message. We will pass some dummy message. So this is the process which happens internally. We need to remember the process. Okay, here the internal process, no need to write, no need to write. Why? Because the process which is happens internally, no need to write arithmetic exception and no need to write. So this is the process is happens internally. No need to write here. You need to understand internal process. Okay, this is with respect to arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Are you guys clear with my point? Now I would like to take a second one is. Okay, I'm now will take with null pointer exception. Some string name equal to null value, right? And then name dot length method. So I'm saving this one. If I running this one, we are getting the null pointer exception, right? So how will you handle? So these two lines are risky code, right? So you can keep inside the try block, and then you can mention here, and then where we can take the catch block, and here we can catch. Here you can mention null pointer exception, and then e. Okay, here you can mention with sysout statement, and here you can mention we cannot perform any operations on null values, null values, null values, right? Okay, I'm saving this one, and then okay, I'm saving this one, and then if I run this one, we will get the result. Start, and then this exception we are handling smoothly. We are handling smoothly. Our main responsibility is to achieve the graceful termination. Our main responsibility is to achieve the graceful termination. Our main responsibility is to achieve the graceful termination. Are you guys clear with my point? Okay. Next one is also the combinations you can take like this. The combinations. So always whenever you are taking the try block, so try block will contain compulsory catch block. Why? Because try block is throwing the object, catch block is catching the object. So these two combination is mandatory. And then one catch block can contain multiple catch blocks also. That is also can take, that is also valid combination. But at least one pair should be there, one try and then one catch. This pair should be the mandatory. Okay, after that we can take after we can take one try block. Inside the one try block we can take multiple catch block also. That is also valid combination. But we need to take at least one try block and one catch block. Next thing is finally block. Finally block meaning, so it will execute all the times. For example, if you write any finally is the keyword. For example, if I will take catch block and here I will take the finally, and from here to here this is the scope of the finally block. Here I am taking sysout statement. Here I am passing some dummy message. Finally, finally statement executed, executing. Okay, I'm saving this one. and then if I print this one, so whatever the statement you have written in the final block, those statements will be executed all the times. Finally meaning it will execute all the times. It will execute all the times. Okay. So the those all are about the try block, catch block, finally block. So the risky code we will keep inside the try block. Okay. Next thing is catch block. Keeping the risky code meaning we are creating the object, throwing the object internally. Throwing the object internal. Also here I am mentioning the null point exception, right? Instead of you can mention null point exception, you can mention parent of this exceptions. Are you guys clear with my point? Normally, normally we have the throwable, right? Throwable, I can say throwable, and then under the throwable we have the exception. Okay. Under the exception, we have the runtime exception and then checked exception and unchecked exception, right? Checked exception and unchecked exceptions. So this is the direct parent of, for example, if I take the null pointer exception, null pointer exception parent is the exception. Exception parent is the throwable. So we can take either null pointer exception or you can take parent also. Anything also fine. I will show you here. Exception, and then if I come here now, instead of null pointer exception directly you can mention parent also, that is also valid. Exception, that is also fine. Okay, you can take a specific class, you can take, or parent class you can take. Anything is valid. Anything is valid. Okay, anything is valid. Okay, fine. Next thing here it is, throws is the keyword which is used to hand over the checked exceptions, hand over, hand over the all checked exceptions, all checked exceptions, all checked exceptions to the caller method, to the caller method or JVM, to the caller method or JVM. Are you guys clear with my point? For example, I will show you here. This is the program. This as of now is clear, guys. Like arithmetic exception, null pointer exception is clear. Finally, these three are clear. Like a try block, catch block, finally is clear. Now we are discussing about the throws keyword. Now we are discussing about the throws keyword. Okay. So throws keyword meaning, for example, I'm taking now this one, and then so here I'm taking I would say the file not file reader. Okay, here I am passing some dummy text abc.txt. Okay, and this one I am storing in some reference variable. The reference variable we can take, the reference variable we can take is, the reference variable we can take is, okay, the reference variable we can take, here it is, fr equal to file reader. Okay, fr equal to file reader. Okay, it is throwing the error. It is throwing the error. Meaning I know this is also error. Compiler is also throwing error. So in this situation, what I am doing is I am telling to the compiler, hey compiler, I know that mistakes. What you can do, you can ignore that mistake. You can ignore that mistake. So how can I tell? You can mention throws keyword. Throws, and then you can mention exception. So what it will do? What it will do, I am telling to the compiler, hey compiler, I know that mistake, you just shut up and you just ignore that statements, and then you can do the compilation. Okay, are you guys clear with my point? So I'm handling the exception in the method level only. So like all the checked exceptions, all checked exceptions I can handle by using the throws keyword, by using the throws keyword, right? So if I save this one, okay, this is clear. Like you can, I would say you can skip all the checked exceptions by using the throws keyword, by using the throws keyword. Okay, by using the throws keyword. Next thing is we'll see some examples on the throws keyword. You can come and then you can throw throws keyword examples, throws keyword best examples. Okay. With respect to file leader. If you see here, we have the two methods. Okay, one is the method, normal method. This is the normal method, and this is the main method. Okay, inside this method, what they are doing, like they are reading the some file, and this file is not available. Then in the method level, they are throwing the exception, which meaning file not found exception, and then they are creating the exception, and then they are throwing the error. But here the compilation level they are throwing, and that they are hand over to the caller method, they are hand over to the caller method. I will show you that one. So normally we can take one custom method. I will take one custom method. This is the main method, right? So I will not use this main method, I will take one custom method, a custom method like m1 method you can take. Okay, and from here to here, this is the scope of m1 method. And then here you can take the new file reader. Okay, and then we can store this new file reader in some reference variable name fr equal to file reader. Okay, and then here I am passing some abc.txt. Okay, this is the error. This error also I know why, because this file is not available in my system, right? So I know that mistake. I am telling to the compiler, hey compiler, you just shut up, please ignore my statements. How can I tell? Simply can mention throws exception, throws exception. Okay, throws exception. And then here we can the second thing is, will object got created, right? So this object will be throw new, this is the thing, right? File not exception, that is also not required. As of now is clear, this is also not required. So this is the main method. Inside the main method I am taking the file reader, and then this is the which method, this is the static method, instance method or static method. This is the instance method. How will you call the instance method? You can call the instance method by using the object. So that's where I will create the object, and then i'm calling the I'm calling the method, that is m1 method. While I'm calling the method, it is throwing the error. Why it is throwing the error? Huh? What is the definition of the throws? Which is used to hand over all checked exception to the caller method. We are hand overing. So here already we are getting the exception, but what we are doing, this exception we are hand over to the caller method. Here we are calling the method, right? Those responsibility we are from there to we are giving to here. So that's why this one we will keep inside the try block. Are you guys clear with my point? Got it? So this one I am keeping inside the try block. So simply you can surround it with the try and catch block, and then here you can pass some dummy message. Some dummy message you can pass here, like I would say south. You can pass some dummy message. mm, File not found, file not found. Okay, I'm saving this one. If I run this one, we'll get the data. We are getting the data. Are you guys clear with my point? So throws is the keyword which is used to hand over the all checked exceptions, to the caller method or JVM, to the caller method or JVM, to the caller method or JVM, to the caller method or JVM. Okay, this is all about throws keyword. Are you guys anyone have any question in this area? Throws keyword. Got it. Next one is the throw. Throw keyword which is used to create the exception programmatically. Used to create the exception programmatically or wantedly. Are you guys clear with my point? So throw is the keyword which is used to throw the exception, which is used to create the exception programmatically. Create the exception programmatically or wantedly. Programmatically or wantedly. Are you guys clear with my point? Now I will take some examples here. Here I will take the method that is void string get name. Okay, string uh, name, method name is the range, and then here I'm passing if I'm taking the some condition, if name equal to name dot, I will like to mention some 100. Okay, name dot equals mm, here you can mention some admin. So basically I will see some examples in here with respect to throw keyword. Mm, mm, If you see this example, this is the static method and they are validating the age. Age is less than, then the person is not eligible. Okay, this is the exception we are creating programmatically. Okay, if not, the person is eligible to vote, and then we are calling the method, right? So here simply can take validate age, then so the same program I am taking here. The, the public static, the method name is, the method don't want to return anything, right? And then validate vote. Validate vote is the method name. Validate vote. Okay, this is the method name, and from here to here, this is the scope of the method. And here, what I am doing, if I would say age less than 18, then I need to create one exception with the help of throw keyword. With the help of throw keyword, so I will use the throw keyword, and then here I will mention throw new exception. Here I will mention the some dummy message. I will pass some dummy message. I will pass some dummy message. Here the input is int age. Okay, here I will pass some dummy message. You are not eligible for vote. You are not eligible for vote. Eligible for vote. Okay, this dummy message I am passing here, and then else. So if the age is greater than above the 18, then here we need to display the message is sysout statement. Here you can mention you are eligible for the OTA. You are eligible for OTA. Eligible for OTA. Okay. You are eligible for the OTA. Okay. So this is the throw exception, right? So this throw exception we need to pass throws exception. Throws exception, and then we need to call this method. Okay. So I'm deleting this one, and now test dot, which method is this one? Validate method, right? Validate code. If I mention that some 20, if I mention some 20, then it is throwing the error. We need to keep inside the why? Because this here we are telling to the compiler Throws meaning we are hand over the exception to the caller method. So at the calling time, you can handle. So surrounded with the try catch, and then here you can mention surrounded with the try catch, and then I'm saving this one, and then if you run this one, you get the you are eligible for the vote. You are eligible for the vote. This is clear, guys. Anyone is any confusion? Total five keywords: tie block, catch block, finally, throws, and throw. In this area, anyone has any confusion? So all of you read these all the points from here onwards. Uh, graceful termination meaning termination after the program execution is called graceful termination. Next one. Uh, okay. Next. What is the first point? Next, second point. What is the third point? Okay, what is the fourth point? As a programmer, program's graceful termination is our responsibility. Okay, and then next line, the main purpose of exception to achieve graceful termination. Okay, this is the exception hierarchy. Exception is divided into two types. Checked exception, unchecked exception. What are the examples for the checked exceptions? Find not found exception, IO exception. And what are the examples for the unchecked exception? Argument exception, null pointer exception. Okay. Next, next points. And above exceptions by using the below keywords. What are the keywords? Try what it will do. Can keep this keyword inside the type block. Second one, catch. Catch the exception. Hmm. Finally, next throw. Okay, with this we have the only one topic, that is user defined exception. User defined exception, or you can say custom exception. User defined exception, or you can say custom exception. Custom exception. Okay, whenever you are creating the custom exception, we need to follow some rules. We need to follow some rules. What are the rules? What are the rules? For example, the thing, when will you go for the custom exception meaning? I will show you. So normally, everybody already you guys aware of like Gmail login, right? Sometimes what will happen whenever you are trying to log in your Gmail, if you are giving to give the wrong credentials, in that case what will happen generally, for example, this is your Gmail username and then your uh, password, and then if you are giving the correct credentials, then you will get the login successful. Sometimes what will happen, you might be given the wrong username or you might be given the wrong password at the time, so immediately it will display one pop-up box: you are giving invalid credentials, you are giving invalid credentials. Are you guys clear with the point? So immediately it will come, it will give the invalid, you are trying to give invalid credentials. You are trying to giving invalid credentials. when you are trying to log in, so if the username and password is correct, then you will get login successful. But some cases, if anything is wrong, then you will get the invalid credentials. So how will you display this invalid credentials? So some cases this we can display by creating the custom exception. We will create one custom exception, and then we will throw some message. What is the issue they are facing? That issue we are displaying on the by using custom exception. Are you guys clear with my point? So based on the some project we will use, based on the project's requirement, we will create the custom exceptions also. We will create the custom exceptions also. Okay, so while creating custom exceptions, we need to follow the rules. The rule number one is create the class name with exception, with exception name. Are you guys clear with my point? Exception name meaning, for example, if you take here, this is the invalid password exception. If you are giving the invalid password, then that exception name is called invalid password exception. So based on the exception name, so we are facing the invalid password exception, right? So create the class name with exception name. Okay, with exception name. Second point is, okay, the class should inherit the class should inherit runtime exception. Inherit runtime exception. Runtime exception. Why? Because so all user defined exceptions are under the runtime exception, right? So the class, so created class, created exception class, exception exception class should inherit runtime exception. Okay, that is the second point. In the third point, in the third point, create exception is the third point. Create the exception based on create the exception, and then throw the exception. And fourth point is we can handle the exception by using, we can handle the we can handle above exception using try catch block, using try comma catch blocks. So while creating the user defined exception, we need to follow the rules. What are the rules? The first one is the create the class name with the exception name. Second one is the create exception class should be inherit the runtime exception. Third one is the create exception and throw the exception. Okay. Okay, I will show you how it should be. Then we'll get the clarity of this. Okay. So simply I am coming here. So I am taking the class name as the invalid password exception. We can come here. You can take the package name as package name. I am taking custom exceptions. Okay, custom exceptions. Okay, fine. Now here I am taking one class. The class name is invalid password exception. Invalid password. Okay, invalid password. Okay, invalid password exception. Okay, invalid password exception. So the first step is done. The first step is done. Second step is we need to inherit the we need to inherit I would say extends runtime exception. Runtime. We need to inherit the runtime exception. We need to inherit the A runtime exception. Okay. You can take a runtime exception. I can say, okay, runtime exception. Got it right. So second step also done. Second step also done. Okay. Next thing is this is the one file, and then the second file I am taking one more file. In this file, name is I am taking as the login form. Login form. Okay. I'm taking as the login form, and then here I am taking. So generally login form meaning we will take some string name equal to admin, and then next int id equal to some 1234 I'm giving. Okay, if the condition is true, like here I will mention like name dot equals method. So equals method is comparison between two strings, comparison between the two strings. Okay, admin, and then here inside the if block, if here I will mention, but in case of integers you can take the double equals. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? In case of integers, you need to take the equals method. Equals method is the comparison method, not equals. Dot comparison method equals method, yeah. Name equals to, then take admin. Okay, here 1234, and then here I am passing the message is the string name login form. Okay, so this all the statements I will take inside the main method. I will take the main method. Inside the main method I am taking all these statements. Okay, so here I am passing the messages sysout statement login successful, login successful, login successful. If not, I can mention else block. I will take the else block, and then here I will mention some. Are you guys clear with my point? What I'm doing? So if the correct, like the username and password is the correct, then we will get the some message. If not, we will create the one exception. If not, we will create the one exception. So that exception we can create. The exception is throw, and then I would say new, and then here you can mention the exception is, here you can pass some message. The message is invalid, invalid password, invalid password. Okay, invalid password. Okay. Hmm. So we need to add the throws also. Oh, as of now is clear. So this is the hard coding, right? So I'm taking this one and then I am running this one. So instead of taking, this is the hard coding, right? Instead of this hard coding, I need to read the data from the keyboard. I need to read the data from the keyboard. So how can I read the data? So if I run this one, what you will get the result? If I run this one, you will get the login successful. So instead of taking the hard coding, I can read the data from the keyboard. Okay, we can read the data from the keyboard in three ways: buffered reader, scanner class, command line arguments. Okay, now we will go with scanner class. First, this is the string, right? We need to read the data from the string. So for that purpose, what I am doing, first we will create the scanner class, new scanner, and then we can import the java.utility package, whereas we can store this one in sc, and then scanner. Okay, and then here you can pass system.in. Okay, this is clear. Now I'm taking, we'll read the two. One is the string value, second one is the integer value. For reading the integer value, sc dot where we have the some methods. If you come down, there we have the some methods. Sc dot not next end, next, no, next end for this one, next end for integer. But the string key, I would say sc dot next. Hmm? Yeah, this one. Next line is for method which is used to read the string data. Okay, next line, and then we can store this one in name variable, and the data type is the string. The data type is the string. Okay, here I am mentioning the data type is the string. So here above this line, I will pass some dummy message, that is the read the string data like that. Okay, system statement, and enter your name. Enter your name. Okay, the same process we will do in this case also. Enter the password. Enter your password, and then under this uh, sc dot, we will use the next int right now. Next int. Next is int is the method which is used to read the integer values. I'm taking this one, and then I am storing this one into some reference variable, that is the id, and then this id data type is the int. Okay, now this hard coding is I am removing. This hard coding is I am removing. Okay, this is clear, guys. Now you can see what I am doing. I am running this one, and then it is asking for the enter your name, and then if I give the correct credentials, like it is throwing the error. So
మీరు ఈక్వల్స్ పెట్టినప్పుడు నేమ్ డాట్ ఈక్వల్స్ అడ్మిన్ అని అడ్మిన్ పెడితేనే కదా మనకు మరి ఏ టు జెడ్ కానీ అట్లా పెట్టాలి. అంటే అప్పుడు అడ్మిన్ టైప్ చేస్తేనే పడుతుంది.
yeah, first one is the admin. Okay, and then second one is the password is 1234. Okay, then you are getting the login successful. This is in case of case number one, meaning you are giving the current credentials, then you are displaying the login successful. But whenever you are giving the wrong credentials, then we need to display this message. Like in that case, what you will do, simply come, and then here in case of admin you can give the admin, and then password you can give wrong password. I am giving some wrong password. I am giving some wrong password. So when I am giving the wrong password, we need to display this exception. throws the exception. Mm. So here the thing is, we have created the exception right here, invalid exception. So the same exception we can create here, that exception, and then this exception we can store in some reference variable, and then this one we can store in this one we can store in you can take anything. So invalid, and then this class type is this one, and then here we'll throw the exception that is invalid. Okay, here you can mention some throws exception, and here we'll pass the exception is invalid credentials. Invalid credentials. Okay, invalid credentials. I'm saving this one, and then if I run this one, it will ask the admin, and then it will ask for the 345 345. Okay, you can save this one. Now the thing is, cross check here, invalid password login form. Then hmm, so the exception can maintain in the try catch block. So this is thing is right, and then in the else block you can maintain invalid password exception, and then you can throw, and then you can catch. So that is the thing. So simply you can go the same custom exception. I'm going here, and inside the else block, the risky code we are taking inside the try block, and then we are throws invalid. I can mention the object. You can throw the object. Okay, now we can go here, and then we can give the credentials which are actually wrong. Then no, we see the name is I would say. Okay, so if you see which is coming, we can run one more time, like admin, and the next thing is some password. I am giving wrong password. So generally the class name you can take with small case. What is the small case? So I will show you here. This one I have written in the invalid password exception, and we need to inherit the runtime exception. And if you click on it login form, so everything is the same. We need to take we are reading the string, reading the integer, and we are validating the both, and if it is wrong, then we need to mention here this one. If I open this one, huh? Okay, if I open this one, if I open this one, okay, invalid password exception we are created and invalid. Okay, if I run this one, if I run this one, so it is asking for enter ID. Can give the enter ID is the admin, and then you can give the enter ID is the wrong. If you are giving the wrong, if you save this one, then if you give the correct credentials, enter ID admin, and then second one is the 1 2 3 4. If I give the login successful, if not given, it display the invalid credential. This dummy message, uh, it will display. If I run this one, I will mention admin, and then if I mention 1 2 3 4 5, then it is not displaying. So this is the normal way. Okay. Generally, we will create the custom exception. If you are giving the correct credentials, then we need to display the login successful. If you are not giving the correct credentials, then we need to display some dummy message. Okay. So as of now, today what you guys will do, mm, these are all the things you can practice with the try block, with the catch block, with the finally block, with the throws block, and with throws keyword. Okay, these are all the assignments you can do the assignments, and then you can share in the group. We can share in the group. Okay, so this is all about exceptions. So online guys, please share your names.